Hi there, welcome to this build of a 20-inch wingspan rubber powered Noctule. Now the Noctule is a really quirky design by Peter Fisher, and he published these plans in Aero Modeler in 1988, in March 1988, and if you have a look in the description below this video you'll find a copy of the plans and the build article, or the article that came in the magazine. Now you can see that this is really cracking on now. We've got all of the building work done. We've got the fin there, if I can just put that on the back. We got the rubber motor built up in the last video, and really there's very little to do to this now. The main thing we've got to do is get this fuselage covered, and it's a lovely shaped fuselage. I really enjoyed making this. It's a little bit smaller than I'm used to. I'm used to much bigger things. But before we can cover this, we're going to cover this in red tissue, the same as on the wings. We're going to use this lovely Japanese Asuka tissue. But before we do that, I want to put on a windscreen, some acetate just around the windows on the fuselage. So I think it's much better to do the acetate first, and then we can cover the edges a little bit with the tissue, and it just makes it, in my mind, a little bit neater than sticking the acetate on afterwards, because you can always see the join, the glue under the acetate, and to my mind it's not as neat solution as doing it first. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a little bit of paper, some scissors and some tape, and I'm going to make up a template first, just in paper. We want to do it in one piece that will wrap around. So I'll get on and do that, and we'll have a look at what I've got, and then we'll transfer that onto some acetate and get it glued on. Right, well this is what I've come up with so far, and to start with, let me just say I've put a block of 3/4 inch balsa in there, which will just come out quite easily, but it's just allowing me to squeeze the sides of this and not worry that I'm going to damage it, because it is very fragile. And when we come to glue this on, I'm going to clamp it with a clamp. So again, just a small, just reach over, small clamp like this, just to hold the acetate in place while the glue sets. I'm going to be using this Formula 560. I think it's a Zap product now. I think they took it over from Pacer. But I've got this screen, which I'm kind of quite happy with, but I want to extend the bits down the side so I make sure that it glues on, or it's got enough tabs to glue on. I'm going to leave these tabs here and glue that on the top. So what I'm going to do now is just make another version of this, put it on, check it's right, and then we can make one in acetate. There's that block of wood we've got in there. Just gives me a bit more confidence when I'm holding the model. Okay, I've made myself another version, and just to get this nice and a nice curve, I just use this kind of hole gauge, or I don't know what you call them, circle template, to get that a nice smooth finish around there. So I've made that, cut it out in paper, and that fits on really quite nice. So I'm quite pleased with that. If I just there we go. There. I think that is going to make quite a nice windscreen. They come down, it comes down a decent distance here, so there's plenty to glue on, but that will be covered in tissue right up to about that line there. Hopefully you can see that about there. So I mean, it's good when you're not working with powered models like this. It's a rubber model, so we're not having to worry about it being totally fuel proof around the front here. So I'm going to get one of these made in acetate, and we'll get it glued on. The acetate I'm using is about 140 microns. It's quite a thin piece of acetate, so it shouldn't put up a lot of resistance as we wrap it round, although I am going to put in a couple of nice creases in the top here so that it sits on top of the fuselage on that piece there. So I'll get this cut out now. Oops, nice sharp scalpel, and we'll see how it fits. Well, I thought I should make a comment about cutting acetate because it's never easy. So what I would suggest is putting a block or something heavy on it, stop it moving around, maybe a little bit close to where we're working. We can get our template, we can put it on the acetate like that, line it up, and then I just draw around with a Sharpie, and you can see I've got my windscreen here, and you can see it's got all the black pen marks around the edges. So all you need is a little bit of ethanol and that will come off. I actually cut this out with I didn't use a scalpel in the end, I used a pair of scissors. But once you've got the windscreen cut out, you can just give it a rub with a little bit of alcohol and all that pen marks comes off. But it certainly made that a lot easier to see when I'm cutting it out. So there we go, that's a nice clean window now. So I've got this cut out, I've got my creases in the top, and we'll just make sure there's no alcohol in it, and we'll have a look and see how this fits. Let me just clear the space a little bit. So there we go, that fits on there. Yeah, really quite nicely. I've got the windscreen there now. What I might do is put a central crease down the middle, because I think that will probably make it just sit a lot easier. So I think what I will do is I will line it up so I'm happy with where it is, and I will mark where that crease needs to be so I get it just right. Then I can fold it, and again I can use the alcohol to take the pen off. So I'll get on and do that now. Okay, so I've got my pen line on, and we're not going to put a huge crease in this. We're just going to, and I'll do it over white because that, yeah, that's better. It shows up now. I can see what I'm looking at, and I just want to get a little bit of a crease in there. I don't want to go mad. There we go. Oh, maybe a little bit more. I know if you crease this too much, it leaves a kind of a white line where it damages the acetate. But that's, can you see that? Just a little bit of a crease in there. So now that should fit on a little bit easier. And actually, I think it's giving it a little bit more of a distinctive flair. So what I'm going to do is take that off, which I can probably use this bit of alcohol I've got on here now. No, I need a little bit more. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to put glue under the sides where the acetate overlaps, either side, and I have been generous, so it's got a good gluing attachment. And I'm going to also put some glue under the top here, and just need to make sure that's pushed down. And then I'm just literally going to clamp that into place like that and let it dry, and I will leave it overnight. Now you can see why that block is really useful inside. So I will get this glued up, and then we can have a quick look once it's glued up, and then tomorrow we'll get this fuselage covered in tissue. In fact, I might start and just get this covered first. Right, I've got this clamped in place, and I think that's okay. It looks as if it's fairly tight. There is just a little bit of lift on this top here, on the V on the top. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and put a clamp on that as well. Now I need to be really careful here or I'm going to damage the fuselage. So I've just put a block on the underside, and just going to put a clamp that just holds those pieces down. And it's very thin acetate, so it doesn't need to be very tightly clamped. Sorry, I'm talking slow here because I'm thinking about that seems a lot better, and it's still not overly tight, but it'll be okay, I think. So I'm going to leave that now till tomorrow, and then we'll undo the clamps, hope they haven't stuck to the windscreen, and hope the windscreen is still on the fuselage. But I think that is looking pretty good. I'm quite pleased with that. So we're going to leave that now and we'll have a look at it tomorrow. And as I said, I'm going to be just putting a bit of tissue on this in the meantime, and I'm going to be just sticking it on with this glue stick, which is blue, and you can see the blue, you can see where you put it, and I'll put the tissue on, and then this will be doped at the same time as the fuselage. And I don't know whether I've said, but I'm going to be using this red Japanese Asuka tissue. Yes, I'm going to be doing it in red. So I will get on and do that now, and like I say, we'll have a look tomorrow. Well, the moment of truth has arrived, and we're going to take the clamps off and see if the windscreen stays on or comes off with the clamps. Fingers crossed. I'm feeling positive. I'm feeling positive. Oh, that's looking good so far. Oh, that is really nice. I'm really pleased with that. We can see that has gone on really, really well. In fact, I am more than pleased. That's done lovely. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start covering this with tissue. I've done the fin, and I've water shrunk that, just sprayed it lightly with water, and that's gone quite nice. So that just needs a coat of dope, and when the fuselage is finished we will stick that on there. So to cover the fuselage, I'm just going to be using this glue stick, and I'm just going to be doing the outside edges and then sticking the tissue on like that. And I'm going to be doing the top, I think, first, and then I'm going to turn it over, and let's take this piece of balsa out. Hopefully that still comes out. And then I'm going to be doing the underside, but I only need to do the bit forward of where the wings attach. So if we just put the wings on, so I only need to do the bit forward of there, so that section. But there is a slight issue in so much that there's nothing here for the tissue to grip onto, and I'm worried that if I just put tissue free hanging there, that's just going to pull back. I mean, I can lap it down that step, but I still don't think that will help. So I'm going to use a really soft, light piece of balsa. I mean, I am very mindful of trying to keep the weight down here, but we need to make sure that the tissue is secure. So I'm going to just put a piece of balsa across there and angled slightly in to the shape of the wing, I think, and that will just give it something to fasten onto. So I'm going to do that now, and then we'll come back and we'll have a look at putting some of the tissue on. Right, well, I've put on a piece of balsa there, really light, won't make any difference to the weight or very little, and I've angled it down just because if I get the wing sits slightly lower, so that feeds in quite nicely there. So now I'm going to get that covered in tissue, and I've cut myself a few bits of this red tissue, and I've got a piece for there, and I'm having the grain running lengthways on this. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick it on the surfaces around the edges, and then I'm going to wait for that to dry. I'm going to trim it and then just fold it around a little bit to give it a little bit more purchase. So we take this blue glue stick and we're just going to put that, let's just wind it out a little bit, just put that on those edges there. There we go. Now I'm not too fussed about those outside edges just yet. So now what we can do, if we get the tissue, we can just place that on there like that and just smooth that out now. Now we obviously want to get this as tight as possible. We don't want any wrinkles or creases. There we go. So now we've got that on there and that's looking quite nice. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a really sharp scalpel and I'm just going to trim around there, just leaving about 1/8 of an inch. And this bottom of this is curved, so we need to just angle it back a little bit now. There we go. So we've done that bit. We will do the front the same. And now we'll just let me do it from there. Right, and I'll just finish this side, which I know you can't see. There we go. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait for this to dry now, and then when it's dry I'm just going to, well, I can put the slits in now. I'm just going to put a number of little slits in like this that will allow me to fold this over. Because this is slightly curved, we need the slits. So in fact I could probably do it now, to be honest, because it seems to have gone on quite well. So what I'm going to do is just put those slits in like I say, or said, and then I will go along this edge. Just put some more glue on, and now we can just fold that over. There we go, and now we've got quite a nice edge that will hold nice and strong when we shrink it. So I'm going to do that all the way around, and I'm going to get the top covered, and then once they're dry I will do the sides. But the sides, when I put it on, I will just do it nice and flush with that top edge so we get a nice seam. We'll have a look at that once I've done it, but it's really simple to done. Right, I've now got the top on, and I actually cut that point before I stuck the tissue on because I knew it was going to be really difficult to try and cut it afterwards. I've lapped that round the back edge there, and that underside is done. It still needs trimming a little bit underneath, but I'll wait till that's that glue has dried. So I'm going to leave that now until I'm sure that that is nice and dry, and then we'll get the side pieces on, and then we'll get it water shrunk and doped. So I'm really pleased with how this is looking, and I'm really enjoying doing it. Right, well, I've now got that covered and I'm quite pleased with how that's looking. I got the sides on in, I got the sides on in 2 pieces, one either side, but then I did the nose separately. And to do the sides I just used the template that I'd used to make those balsa sides, just to cut the top profile or the top line on the tissue so I could put it on and just get it nicely in place without worrying about having to trim it. The bottom I left long, and that was then trimmed after it was stuck on. The nose section I've done separately, and you can just see the dark line down the sides. Now I've ended up with a little bit of a wrinkle here, which I'm hoping will come out when I spray it with water in a minute. I'm going to water shrink this first. Hopefully it won't split the tissue along the top there, it won't shrink that powerfully enough, but we will see. So I'll get that sprayed, and then once that's dried I'm going to put a single coat of dope on it. Right, well, I've now got that finished and it's all shrunk down nicely. Got rid of all the wrinkles. It's had a single coat of about 50-50 dope. I'm not going to give that any more, and now we can just see what that's like on the wing. You can see it fits on nicely there, and that sort of tapers in, and if we turn it over and we can put the fin on. I don't think we can get this to stand up without a bit of tape, but there we go. And let's just move that back a little bit. So there we go. It's certainly coming on now. Well, I know this has only been a really small, quick build. It's just a bit of fun, really, a simple rubber model. But it's been really exciting to see it starting to take shape, and now getting this fuselage covered and sitting it on top of that wing, we really get an idea of what this Noctule is going to be like. Now, we've got very little to do on this now, and really the main job is to fit these elevons, cover them and fit the elevons, and they don't need to be movable because they're not. It's not a radio control model, it's a free flight model, but we do need to have a little bit of flexibility to actually adjust the trim on these, so we do need a way of being able to move them, but we want them fixed where we put them. So I've got a few ideas on how to do that, something nice and simple. So in the next video we're going to do that, and once we've got those done, we're going to glue this fin on, glue the fuselage on the wings, and we're done. And then it'll be great to take it out and do some trim flights, some test glides, and just see how it goes. But anyway, I'm going to draw this video to a close now, and I hope you're enjoying this as much as I am, because I really am enjoying pulling this little model together. So anyway, thanks very much for watching, and come back and see how we get on finishing this model off in the next video.